The human life journey. When a person meets their inner limit, the inner struggle is usually shifted outwards towards the person or people who were the triggering factor. This is the main cause of conflicts around the world and in our own everyday life. With the right of the strongest in the external sense, which our lives are built around, the inner struggle of a person is often shifted outwards to become a struggle where one lets other people, both with and against their will, fight for them. If the responsible person had realized their limitations and therefore handed over control to others with higher morality, i.e., a larger inner space, the possibility of averting an outer conflict would be greater. Yes, ideally I should perhaps not fight back, you think, but who do you think is able to live like that in the real world? The real world is also your inner life, and perhaps more real than the outer one, which is only the storm and the waves on the surface of your ocean. We must deal with the daily struggle for our livelihood, but if we do not know the deeper aspects of life, the inner world, and if we do not use it sufficiently, our livelihood and content will be governed to a large extent by storms and waves, and our lives will lack the support and strength that a well-maintained inner life can provide. This leads us to a desire to understand our inner life in order to thereby develop a richer personality without having to focus everything on the outside. Man is like an ocean sailor, where the hull, keel, mast and sail symbolize the outer and inner reality. The sea is life itself, and the helmsman on board is our thought and will. A good picture for seeing and understanding our lives can be given to us by an ocean sailor and its voyage. The boat has a ballast of about 50% of the total weight placed in the keel down in the sea in close contact with the rudder. The keel is the spiritual ballast, which keeps us on the right course when there is a balance between hull body, keel spirit and sail attitude. The rudder, our emotional life, fluctuates in relation to wind and currents influences on the surface in daily life. The tiller, our knowledge, together with the rudder emotions, corrects the course. The whole body, the visible, rests on the surface with mast and sail. The mast, the backbone personality of our sail of life, rests on the keel and is supported by the stays, our faith. The sails are set in relation to weather and wind, which are the external influences, and the sails, which are our attitudes, must be used with care, and we like them best white. The helmsman of the boat is our thought and will, which will steer us through life's many storms. Yes, we are not completely without direction, but if too much is left to chance, the harbor we find may not suit our boat. Some are too shallow for our ballast, but none are too deep. Don't believe them if they say so. This is a harbor and our boat floats. If our ship is well maintained and the sails trimmed, then we sail on, because you then have ballast if there is a little wind. But if we have spiritual ballast and a skipper, thought and will, it helps very little if our boat is poorly maintained, our life is poorly lived. Just listen. 1. Our emotional life, the rudder is defective, we have no control. The use of our knowledge, the tiller, was not sensible. 2. The sails steer, our attitudes could not withstand the wind pressure, others' opinions. 3. Our faith, the stays break, we forgot the necessary maintenance and replacement. 4. The personality, the mast breaks or the boat capsizes due to too much sail steep attitude. 5. Body maintenance, the hull is leaky, we are towed to shore, but if we sink, it is in the sea of truth. The sea illustrates truth, and as certain as 1 + 1 is equal to 2, it is that if we do not relate to the laws that apply in our dealings with the sea, it will be a bad voyage, and we may sink completely. Yes, the sea of truth is what we sail on, and if we are to master the element, then we must relate to it, like the boat we are. Some can set great sails with the boat and ballast they have. But if the hurricane of war blows, we should have stayed in the harbor, because no spiritual ballast can help us where war rages. We got the weather forecast, but did not listen to it. We forgot that the hurricane of war will sink us in the sea of truth. Yes, it will bathe us in truth and show us off to the eyes of those who know better, those seeking a harbor. With torn sails attitudes and rudders emotional life, broken masts personalities and the stays faiths swinging back and forth without the contact that gives meaning to the voyage. In the ravages of the hurricane, even the keel spirituality became visible for a few short seconds before the boat went down. Only a few sails and other driftwood float heavily in the sea, as a memory of what was and what sent the boat to the bottom. External influences affect us to a greater or lesser extent, depending on how and when we are out sailing. The sea illustrates the unwritten laws that we must deal with in our dealings with each other. The superficial contact with reality that we mostly have does not give us the security and joy that an understanding and greater use of one's inner world could give. We cannot therefore believe that our stormy sea voyage is the whole truth, and few would claim that. Development and renewal mean not only more and bigger sails, but also a better use of the boat we sail, so that we can deal with life in a way that keeps us afloat. Today, where there is so much focus on external causes and consequences, as I said, it is only on the surface of the sea that we are and our diving equipment to explore the real world. Our thought and will are not used sufficiently. Man takes care of his body but forgets his soul. An animal also takes care of his body and is in harmony, but man, who consists of both body and soul, also needs inner care. The body is easy to define, and we have learned to understand most of its functions. The soul, which is only visible to ourselves, is therefore not so tangible in an external world, but in the inner it is all we have, and we must use it in harmony with its basis to realize our lives. The basis of the soul thought will is love. It is love because a loving action always resonates in our inner being, our soul, with the result that our thought opens up and tells us more, and our will strengthens us so that we can do more. The opposite happens when we consciously act against our conscience with our thought and will and suppress charity. Our thought closes down and tells us less than before, and our will weakens so that we can do less than before. The result is that our inner emotional life is crippled, and we seek an outlet for our longing in the outer world, where everything actually points back to us and our inner world. Thus, we find ourselves in such a phase in a void. The outer does not nourish the soul, and the soul's will to think is not realized in the outer world, because we do not use the basis of the soul, which is love. Our highest ideals and desires are not realized because they are not based on the soul's life force, love. We will then be content with the external world for a while, but our true self-soul will not thrive, and when the desire for a healthier and truer life becomes strong enough, we will make new choices in our longing that can open up a greater unfolding of the soul's place in our daily lives. The restoration enlivens our thoughts and will, and we experience it concretely as a feeling of joy and energy. The possibility of realizing our highest ideals and desires is once again present, and balance is restored. Like a beautiful and well-sailed boat, we can then continue our life's voyage and constantly learn to cope with the challenges of the voyage in a better way, so that when we weigh anchor for the last time, we can look back on life with satisfaction in the certainty that we made our voyage as a skilled skipper.